What happens when a laid-back neighbor discovers that kindness can fuel outrageous entitlement? Join me as I navigate a shocking power struggle against the queen of campground chaos. Before we begin today's insane story, show some love if you've ever survived a wild Karen meltdown. Drop a like and let me know your craziest Karen run-in you've had down in the comments. If you're new around here, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss another jaw-dropping showdown. The morning sun was shining bright as I stepped outside, my plaid shirt gently waving in the breeze. Karen Finkelstein, the self-proclaimed queen of the campground and part-time electrician, was standing in my yard like she owned the place. Her shoulder-length, permed hair bobbed cheerfully along with her raucous laughter as she plugged her RV into my power outlet, completely oblivious to the furious twitching of my right eye. "Ethan, you can't own electricity," she chirped, voice deep and honeyed like syrup that had gone sour. Just like that, I found myself on the precipice between neighborly politeness and a rapidly escalating saga that would rival any soap opera on daytime television. In my mind, I pictured neon signs flashing "Entitlement Alert" as I fought a losing battle against the absurdity unraveling before me. Fueled by equal parts indignation and determination, I took a deep breath and reminded myself that confrontation wasn't my forte. But this was different. This was like trying to keep a rabid raccoon from your trash while Karen, oblivious to the havoc unleashed, was joyfully rummaging through my electrical supply. "Unplug, Karen," I protested, hoping to sound assertive. But instead, my voice cracked, resembling a gymnastics coach encouraging a flop on the balance beam. Her response? A dismissive wave of her manicured hand, as if brushing away responsibilities like crumbs from her bright floral blouse. It was a scene that felt stolen straight from a slapstick comedy, except I was the butt of the joke, and I had a sinking feeling I was being set up for an even bigger punchline. As the day trudged on, I couldn't shake the gnawing sensation in my gut that this encounter had crossed a line. I had always believed that good fences, or at least good electric meters, make good neighbors. Yet there Karen stood, queen of the campgrounds with zero boundaries and a flag of entitlement waving gloriously above her RV. Thoughts spiraled in my mind like a tornado carrying a whole bunch of flaming absurdities. What if I created an invoice honing in on every kilowatt she used? Surely none could blow that off, right? I chuckled at the ridiculousness of it all. What a plot twist that would be. I could practically hear cheering from the invisible audience surrounding my backyard. Armed with my laptop and a cup of joe, I spent a couple of hours lurking behind my screen, calculating Karen's power consumption with the diligence of an accountant during tax season. I treated it like an elaborate heist plan. After the adrenaline of the encounter wore off, it was my moment to embrace the role of the mischievous underdog bodaciously daring to stand up for his rights. There was a sick amusement in imagining her face upon receiving my invoice. 3,742, and counting, Karen. My fingers flew across the keyboard, initiating the most divine esprit de résilience, the grand scheme of billing her for the electricity she had audaciously commandeered. By the time I hit send, the satisfaction of pressing the button was akin to winning the lottery, and finding out the prize was a lifetime supply of pizza. I could visualize the moment when Karen, upon opening the envelope, would swell with indignation like a pufferfish. Joe, my ever-supportive neighbor, had suggested that I could take it a step further, sending her to collections. Imagine it. The self-righteous Karen, bouncing on the edges of her entitlement, finally getting a taste of consequence. However, my inner nice guy lurked underneath, prompting me to question, would I go too far? But so what? If life handed me a Karen, I could serve her a slice of revenge with a side of justice. Days passed, and I waited for the storm to brew, while an absurd expectation brewed within my overly optimistic mind. Maybe she would laugh it off. Maybe she'd even apologize and say she'd never do it again, as if she were suddenly struck by the realization that electricity didn't magically spring up from the earth itself. Yet, deep down, I understood the funky truth. I had thrown a sparkling lit match into a bonfire of entitlement, and I held no control over how bright this fire would blaze. Would Karen come knocking, looking for a resolution? Or would she escalate her antics to heights I hadn't even begun to imagine? Finally, the day arrived when my phone buzzed with a faintly familiar ringtone. I recognized the melody. It was the sound of chaos. Frankly, I experienced a mix of dread and exhilaration as I answered. Karen's voice was a cacophony of fury, and I couldn't help but grin like a Cheshire cat from the sheer satisfaction of knowing my epic retaliation was about to unfold. "You think you can just bill me for power usage? This is outrageous," she shrieked through the speaker. Each piercing shriek was a note in a symphony of absurdity, and I reveled in every pitch, knowing this was only the beginning of my carnival of chaos. Would I go toe-to-toe with the queen of RV drama? Oh, you bet your plaid shirt I would. As Karen's shrill tirade screeched through my phone, I conjured the image of her face, distorted in fury, equal parts determination and confusion. "This is outrageous," she echoed again, sounding as if she had just stepped off a dramatic soap opera set. I couldn't suppress a chuckle. It felt as though I had pulled a fire alarm in the middle of her over-the-top performance. The way she kicked off her rant was almost theatrical. Each word dripped in melodrama, as if she were auditioning for a lead role in Camping Confessions, the musical. I leaned back in my chair, enjoying my front row seat to her antics, while still half hoping she might somehow come to see the light, which, let's be honest, was as likely as her wearing something muted for once. "Ethan, you can't just throw around bills like that. I thought we were neighbors," she huffed, her voice climbing into a pitch that could shatter glass. A light bulb flickered in my brain. Ah, there it was. The classic neighborly trust angle, straight from the How to Avoid Responsibility handbook. "You plugging my power into your camper is what I call a betrayal of neighborly trust, Karen," I deftly inserted, unable to ignore the sarcasm bubbling up inside me. I felt a rush of adrenaline. This was my chance to assert myself. "You're consuming nearly double the energy my entire house uses, lady." I practically yelled into the receiver, invigorated by the thrill of standing up for myself, finally stepping out of the shadow of my conflict-averse self. "Double? No. I don't know what numbers you're cooking up, but I'm just a simple gal camping in my RV," she exclaimed, sounding more incredulous than a raccoon caught in the act of rifling through a trash can. I had to suppress a full-on laugh because, honestly, how many simple gals resort to commandeering their neighbor's power without so much as a buy your leave? "Karen, you must have skipped math class along with basic respect for property lines. When I needed those extra kilowatts to keep my refrigerator running, I didn't wait around for you to hand over a slice of your community spirit," I replied, half pleased with my wit and half wondering if a good old slapstick comedy show needed revival with our current absurdity on display. "Community spirit doesn't give you the green light to drain my generator while you toast marshmallows. How would you feel if I slipped into your RV and started cooking my breakfast in your kitchen?" I surged forward, caught up in the rhythm of banter. My voice danced between incredulous awe and malicious glee. It was like wielding a spatula of truth while flipping over her overcooked lies. I felt the heat of this ridiculous confrontation rise to a simmer, every moment crafting a peak in the escalating this season's villainous showdown. My heart raced as I continued to spar with Karen. Would this be the moment I finally reclaimed my turf and wrapped my existence in a proper boundary of peaceful camping? Yet, even as I threw my verbal punches, something gnawed at me. What if I didn't want this to escalate? What if, behind her theatrics, there was a piece of Karen who could understand my predicament, the electrical Dracula she'd chosen to embody? I took a deep breath, reminding myself that I still preferred a smooth-sailing neighborly existence over open warfare. "Listen, Karen," I said, voice slightly less accusatory and loaded instead with a sense of reason. "Let's think about finding a balance." I imagined navigating this conversation on a tightrope stretched over a pit full of biting sheep, where every misstep could lead to epic consequences. Would Karen even know what balance means, though? "Oh, so now we're being diplomatic?" Karen huffed back. I could practically picture her punctuating her retort with an eye roll so exaggerated that cartoon characters would applaud her lead. "How about you just let it go? I mean," she chuckled dismissively, "you're making a mountain out of a molehill. Just wait until my friends hear about this." Friends? I had recently dipped my toes into some research on Karen's so-called community spirit, and I was pretty sure her friends were merely a group of well-fed seagulls gathering for a food race about who could scoff down the most crumbs. The thought of that gathering sent a ripple of humor through an otherwise tense situation and sparked an idea. What if I could reach out to her friends and offer them my illustrative invoice? Karen, I'm just going to put this out here. Maybe I should send your friends the invoice too. Who can resist the chance to weigh in on poor Ethan versus Karen the power thief? The humor in my voice swung like a lasso around the tension in our conversation, yanking it tighter with each word. After all, it's a fully community affair, right? I asked, giggling internally at the absurdity of it all. My previous caution transformed into a daring pushback. Either adapt or get consumed by the quagmire of the absurdity around me. How odd that this bizarre dispute circling around RV electric cords could spiral out into a dish best served by a supporting cast of quirky friends. Would they grasp her plight, or brand her the reigning title holder of Power Bandit? As I hung up the phone, a bemused smile tugged at my lips. The Quentin Tarantino plot twists of my life were in full swing. Would Karen ever realize that perhaps some community spirit requires a dash of personal accountability? Or was I about to be trapped in a harrowing saga loaded with drama and overblown retaliations? Only time would tell. The next morning, with Karen's melodrama still lodged in my mind like a stubborn sock in the dryer, I had a solid breakfast of eggs and toast to bolster my resolve. Coffee steamed in front of me, the black, rich brew, a beacon of the courage I was mustering up. I glanced out my window to see Karen's RV parked smugly in my peripheral like an unwelcome sitcom character who always crashes the party. Yet this villain didn't throw pies. She siphoned off my electricity. Who needs a budget for electricity? I half-mocked her loudspeaker mantra when Joe rolled over that afternoon, eyeing the rig outside with a smirk that spoke volumes. "What are we doing about Karen's camping extravaganza today, Sherlock?" I snorted. "I'm considering sending her a power bill she'll never forget." The thought made me chuckle, picturing $1 million invoice being handed to her in a court of law. My inner lawyer was on fire at the audacity of this whole situation. Joe threw his head back and guffawed. "Listen, man, if she's entitled enough to drain your power without batting an eyelash, then I say you're justified in putting her in her place. I mean, putting Karen in Karen, just pay up, is practically national sport these days." His enthusiasm was contagious, and I felt a shot of adrenaline spurt through my veins. The question is, how do I ensure that Karen doesn't just scoff at my claims? I mused aloud while rubbing the stubble on my chin, a real-life confrontation brewing in the depths of my imagination. Joe crossed his arms. Why not hit her where it hurts? Get that collections company involved. You said you were going to do it. I hesitated for just a moment before a wicked grin spread across my face. That infamous grin that screamed, "Let's double down on this crazy." According to Joe's logic, I was just fostering creativity in this divisive neighborhood performance, just with a side of legal drama. Fueled by caffeinated ambition, I promptly picked up my phone, tapping the number of the local collection agency like I was dancing on hot coals. "Yes, hello? I'd like to file a claim against a neighbor for unauthorized use of my power," I declared, my heart racing at the absurdity of it all. The operator didn't seem to bat an eye, and I could practically hear her stifling a chuckle. "Sorry, ma'am. I assume this is a read-all-about-it story that will be the talk of the neighborhood." This, of course, gave me the bizarre satisfaction of picturing Karen's investment banker's face when she tried to explain my hefty bill to him. I could hear the glorious narrative flowing. "So, my neighbor charged me for the light bulbs I used while camping?" I couldn't help but imagine the shaking of heads that would follow that ludicrous statement. After some back and forth with a collections agent, the paperwork was sent out, and I took a moment to gloat about this small victory. On the other hand, it wasn't a 10-step plan to world peace. It was just me waving my paper sword at my entitled foe. "What's next, Ethan?" I wondered aloud, tapping a finger on the table, a feigned mixture of curiosity and bravado. Alas, I wasn't one to embrace such darkness easily. There was always an inkling of restlessness that made me wary of the chaos threatening to ensue. However, Joe offered reassurance that I was on a righteous path. "Remember, Ethan, this isn't just about the power. It's about standing up for your right to not be drained dry by Karen's campfire smoke and audacity." His words sparked a newfound energy within me, And believe me, I was all about channeling good vibes and worthy victories these days. With the sun setting behind the trees, painting the sky with fiery swirls of red and orange, I settled down in my living room with a satisfied sigh, my popcorn bowl in one hand and the latest reality show on the TV. But, as the credits rolled, the ringing of my phone jolted me from my reverie, and lo and behold, the caller ID read Karen Finkelstein. My pulse quickened, and I could feel the adrenaline lace through my veins like an invigorating tease of chaos about to unfold. Had she finally seen the error of her ways? Was she about to plead her case? Or would she leap straight into dramatic indignation, screaming into my ear? Only one way to find out. I hit the accept button, bracing myself for the world's most entertaining showdown yet. "Ethan," she boomed, her tone infused with that stirring drama only she could conjure. "I just received a communication from a collections agency, and let me tell you, this is beyond unreasonable." I fought to suppress my laughter. "Oh, you mean the unsolicited lawsuit I launched against your energy banditry?" "Yes, indeed." I couldn't help myself. "What brings you to the humble Ethan the electrician hotline today?" I grinned. My mischievous banter, and the thrill of not being her punching bag anymore, surged like a tide against the rocks. For the first time in this heated exchange, I felt invigorated by her irritated responses and sensation of retribution that was finally unfolding. Her usual bravado now seemed to falter, moments where she seemed scrambling to form the next line of her argument as if she'd just misplaced her cue cards. "Ethan," she continued, her voice dipping as though she were delivering last rites for her reputation, "this is not how neighbors act. Surely we can come to an understanding." You could almost hear the gears grinding in her head, wearing down under the weight of my curt response. "Ah, understanding. I get it. You mean the understanding where I pay for your vacation while you enjoy the essence of community spirit?" My musical sarcasm was at its peak, like the arias of a comedy opera performed under the moonlight. Each glimmer of laughter between us presented itself like a meteor shower among the darkness of conflict, a spectacular clash of titans in a nerdy gladiatorial arena. Each little jab exchange became a witticism forged in the fires of neighborly absurdity, and I was exhilarated by my newfound spark. She could take her entitlement and shove it right back into the realm of entitlement where it belonged. But the core of my motivation still had its roots grounded in reality. How long could this survive if push came to shove? Would I need a lawyer? Or would she morph into a regular, palatable version of the entitled mammoth presently roaming my street? As the conversation rolled on, I found myself torn between the thrill of combat and the faint possibility of her changing course. I chuckled at the thought. Maybe, just maybe, Karen and I could find some rhythm to our ping-pong of snarky retorts. Or perhaps this was only the beginning of an epic feud worthy of viral fame. With humor and unexpected alliances on one side, what wonders would unfold next? "Oh, come on, Ethan," Karen exclaimed, her voice bordering on melodramatic as though she was auditioning for a role in a soap opera set in a retirement home. "You can't possibly think this is fair. I mean, I have a golf cart to charge, and you really expect me to pay for it?" I stifled a chuckle. Her outrage was like a fireworks show in front of my very eyes, loud, bright, and completely ridiculous. Was my entitled nemesis really trying to ascertain her golf cart's needs over the outrageous account I had cobbled together? "Oh, Karen," I replied, channeling my inner soap star to match her tone. "You and your beloved golf cart aside, I think you're missing the point here. This isn't just about a few watts. It's about principle. Plus, you siphoned off enough juice to keep a small village running." At that moment, I swore I could hear the gears of Karen's mind grinding to a halt as she processed my dazzling wit. "Principle?" she practically shrieked, followed by a feigned gasp that would have impressed a seasoned actor. "What kind of principle are we talking about, Ethan? It's just electricity. You can just turn on a generator or something." Oh, the absurdity! It was astonishing. Here she was, standing in her neon print summer shorts, waving away the very notion of responsibility as if it were a pesky mosquito buzzing around her head. "Use a generator?" I replied, my voice downgrading to a mock-serious tone. Suddenly, a hilariously vivid image forced its way into my mind. Me at home, hosting my next neighborhood potluck with a giant, noisy generator churning outside like the world's worst DJ mixing a party gone wrong. Just picture the ambiance, Karen. The soothing sounds of electricity summoning all the cats in the vicinity. The conversation quickly devolved into a back and forth, with Karen's indignation battling the cool humor I was emitting, like a cozy outdoor fireplace on a chilly night. My phone lit up with incoming texts from Joe, who seemed more invested in our back and forth than I was. "You're crushing it," he cheered alongside a laugh emoji that left me vibrating between rage and delight. I'd never realized how much fun it could be to engage in the ultimate duel of wits with a woman who had always loomed larger than life, commanding the small piece of suburban turf as if she were Queen Karen of conflicts. At least you're entertaining everyone else. You're practically the neighborhood's top comedian. My heart raced as the possibility of creating a goofily intense rivalry began to dawn on me. "You think this is funny?" Karen's tone shifted to one of shrill disbelief, reminding me briefly of my high school drama class aptly portraying the damsel in distress. "This is ruining my credit. If I can't charge my card, which, by the way, is very important for my social status, I'll never secure an invitation to the next block party." And I was finally ready to flaunt my homemade guacamole recipe. The utter ridiculousness of it all was distracting. I simply couldn't control the laughter bubbling within me. A vision of Karen wearing a sashes marked Queen of Golf Carts danced through my head. Guacamole dreams aside, I couldn't help the joy bursting from my inner circle of sanity. First off, I'm all for promoting guacamole. Secondly, I'd advise against any future social status gauging off the ability to keep your golf cart powered by your neighbor's generosity. "Ethan, listen please," she shrieked again, and I could hear the tiresome grumbling of a woman who realized she was losing her grip amid the wild theatrics of our debate. What will the neighbors say? What will my friends think? A small part of me binged on glee as my heart swelled at the idea of becoming the neighborhood sensation. Oh, come on, Karen. Just imagine the headlines. "Local man takes on the Queen of Entitlement." It would be glorious. I could hear the trajectory of the conversation ricochet around her shriveled sense of entitlement. Surely she hadn't dreamt she could smoothly power her RV door to door, then evade accountability with a sad puppy face. Might I recommend a themed soiree? I struck with enthusiasm, sharpening the playful combat. With a golf cart electricity denial theme, I'd be more than willing to show up dressed as the shorts-wearing vacation neighbor. Seeing my hidden talents emerged as a comedic dramatist was intoxicating, a rush that only solidified my path to victory. What do you think? Personally, I have no qualms about my own electricity bill assisting in your social life. The silence on Karen's end was deafening, like she was trying to weigh the significance of my jabs alongside managing the rapid decline of her social life. But just when I thought I had backed her into a corner, she pulled her trump card right out. "If you don't resolve this, I will make sure that everyone knows you are the neighbor with the unyielding, power-hungry grip." Just imagine the backlash. I could picture it now, Karen slinging her tales of my villainous side to every local gossiping friend, as though she were on a mission to annihilate my reputation. Suddenly, visions of neighborly backlash painted my imagination with shades of worry. Hold on. Do you really believe I'm just going to sit and take it from your shouting, while you prance about starving my electrical resources? Talk about the world's most boring villain. And with that, I snapped into action. The theatrics of a neighborhood show, a duet of epic proportion between two fierce voices in the latest chapter of my suburban saga. My resolve firm, though the line flickered with tension. Here's what I'm thinking. You meet me halfway. Let's rewrite this story into one with a mutual solution, instead of heading towards a season finale of Karen v. Ethan. The thought of possible collaboration sparked a sense of adventure. Who knew that life in our quiet neighborhood could become a soap opera-worthy power struggle? Would we be thrust into a situation where we could work together towards something completely unexpected? This melodrama had morphed into an unintended banquet of fun and conflict. What else was lurking just around the corner? Just when I thought I had her cornered, her eyes lit up with uncharacteristic mischief, enough to spark alarms in my already anticipation-fueled heart. "Ethan, you think we're in a soap opera? Ha! How about a side plot twist where I expose your unyielding power grip to the community? Just imagine the drama. She threw her head back and laughed, the sound grating against the backdrop of my mounting frustration. This is about more than just a golf cart. This is about community respect. A reminder that I can ruin your reputation as easily as I charge my beloved cart. I was suddenly reminded that for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Karen was ready to unleash her own version of neighborhood chaos. It's like wanting to watch fireworks and receiving a yard sale instead. Both make a noise, but only one is remotely amusing. Shaking my head at the absurdity of her threats, I rallied my own artillery of reasons why her reputation wouldn't cut through the comedy of her situation. Oh, come on, Karen. The neighbors already know I'm the guy who throws the best barbecues, while you're still secretly hoarding potato salad recipes from the 90s. I retorted, a spark of humor igniting in me. The thought of her carefully crafting a social reputation made my heart race, and I couldn't help but add, what's next? A neighborhood poster detailing my electric greed? Honestly, Karen, you should be focusing on keeping your social status through sheer charm rather than all this electricity drama. I imagined the caricature of her face plastered on a poster. Beware the electric neighbor, glossy and dramatic. I bit my lip to suppress my laughter. Then, something shifted within me as I feigned calm composure. Why should I let her control the narrative? What if I turned the tables? Listen up, here's how it's going to go, I stated. A wave of confidence sweeping over me, almost as if I had channeled another version of myself. You're going to apologize for treating me as if I were your personal power plant, and in exchange, I'll forego the 742 in electrical grievances. I paused for dramatic effect. The neighborhood was watching in metaphorical slow motion, buzzing with anticipation. How about we host a block party together? You provide your famous guacamole, and I'll light the place up with sizzling steaks, I concluded with a flourish, drawing on inspiration from Joe's earlier text messages. Was this the semblance of a truce, or a wild ride toward even more chaos? The stunned silence that followed was captivating. I pictured cascading moments in the minds of my neighbors as they absorbed the offers and counteroffers. Karen's lips twitched, teetering between a frown and the recognition of a skit well played. Block party, huh? She mused, her eyebrows knitting in thought. I watched as her thoughts stirred, perhaps seeing a flicker of opportunity. And if I agree to that, she mused slowly, you'll let the whole Karen's running on your power fiasco fade quietly into the sunset? I could practically see the gears of entitlement turn in her mind. A battle of stakes in this unexpectedly theatrical neighborhood rivalry. The vision of our block party flashed in my mind. Families gathered, laughter filling the air, and me secretly basking in the glorious injustice reversal against the infamous Karen. Absolutely. Consider it a peace offering, and perhaps my way of encouraging another perspective on community living. I fired back, grinning like a kid who had just snagged the last cookie from the jar. Karen's growing sense of confused camaraderie was far more entertaining than her predictable threats. Imagine telling your friends how you collaborated with me, the power-hungry neighbor, while hosting a successful community event. Now that's the kind of juicy gossip you can roll with, I suggested, my own enthusiasm threatening to explode. The intoxicating notion of a whimsical reconciliation hanging over us felt powerful, exhilarating, and oddly hilarious. As her resistance thawed under the lovely weight of absurdity, I hammered my proposal home. Besides, think of the ratings. Local enemies turned block party allies. I can already envision the shocked network camera footage capturing our awkward smiles. The laughter escaped my lips as I leaned back slightly, thoroughly enjoying the absurdity. The power dynamics between us had swung. She was now contemplating more than just revenge and petty squabbles. I had opened a door to unity, however strange it may be. After all, who would have guessed that the oddest rivalry could morph into something worthwhile and unifying? Was this some secret lesson in neighborhood attractions, or just another stroke of comedic fate that kept our suburban life interesting? And Ethan? Karen finally said, still caught in the absurdity of our negotiations, with an expression half charmed, half challenged, as if warding off invisible foes. If I agree to this combination block party reunion, you're promising there won't be any dark clouds looming over my golf cart privileges? The notion of ensuring Karen's unwarranted entitlement lingered in the air like a fine aroma, revisiting all the past ignominies she had cast toward me. "As long as you give up your queenly ambitions of electrical thievery at my expense," I replied, smirking at her, "then the skies are clear and sunny for our block party." As her laughter began to mix with mine, I watched all my neighbors sketching the fairy tale we crafted together, and wouldn't you know it, that was indeed the unexpected comfort of a suburban saga. What other bizarre turnouts awaited us next in this wild neighborhood tale? Thanks for tuning into this insane entitled Karen story. If you're craving more wild Karen showdowns, check out our video on the right. Or if you trust YouTube's instincts, pick the one on the left. Whichever you choose, brace yourself. There's plenty more meltdown madness where today's story came from.